Vertical farms have been praised as the future of agriculture. They reduce water usage, allow crops to be grown year-round, and remove any potential contaminants from the environment. And for a long time, it's been suggested that indoor farms actually reduce emissions. Some recent studies actually suggest that this might not be the case, and that vertical farms are actually worse for the environment because of how much energy they use.
Natural gas provides the majority of power in Wisconsin today. I think coal is the second. Renewables is still on a smaller scale, but is growing. Nuclear power is something that's carbon-free, very clean. That provides significant. And then we have, we do have battery storage. We have hydro, so we have rivers that are providing power. We have a biomass plant that we own that does provide some energy. There's some oil. I mean, there's kind of other things, propane in the mix, those type of things. But the majority are going to be what you'd expect it to be. It's wind, solar, nuclear, coal, natural gas. Those are really the big things, and they complement each other so well. On a really windy day, the wind farms, they can run and they can provide a significant amount of power, but when it's not very windy and it's at 2 a.m., well, that's where the coal plants and natural gas plants, which you can control, it's called dispatchable. They can provide the majority of the power. And then, at 5, 6 a.m. when the sun comes up, maybe those ramp down and the solar plants start powering more. So they really do all work with each other really well. We as a company built the first large-scale wind farm a few decades ago. So kind of Iowa, parts of Minnesota, the Dakotas, those are really kind of powerhouses for wind. We're here in Wisconsin. Solar is actually a little bit better. In fact, as kind of a surprising thing, our solar output here is about as good as it is in Florida. It's about the same. And Florida certainly is a sunshine state, but they tend to get a lot more afternoon cloud cover year round. So, if you look at our end of year, what's our solar output on the same facility in Wisconsin would be in Florida? It's about the same here in Wisconsin because we tend to get less consistent cloud cover than they do in Florida.
Vertical farming as a whole is actually a very large category. There are dozens of different ways that you can grow vertically instead of in the traditional, conventional, horizontal style. These farms can range from small outdoor farms that just use aeroponics or hydroponic systems, or they can range to $100 million facilities that are warehouses full of produce. When I was first looking into vertical farming, before we started our own in GrowSpace, most of the studies said that vertical farming was better for emissions even when on a non-cleaned grid. That the electricity usage was not to the point where it would actually be worse than a conventional or traditional farm. But some recent studies, and I mean recent, as of July of this year, are actually suggesting the opposite is true, and that many times vertical farms release more emissions than conventional farms. Emissions can range from as small as 0.2 kilograms per kilogram of lettuce grown, all the way up to 15 kilograms of CO2 per kilogram of lettuce grown. And this actually just pissed me off like crazy because all of my research, everything I learned up to that point was saying the opposite to be true, and the recent studies and more research have come out, it's proven to be completely a lie. Alright, maybe if other people's systems are releasing a lot of emissions, ours are actually on the better end of that. So I decided to do the math and figure out if that is actually the case. Luckily for me, this isn't the most difficult math in the world, and I'll walk you through it right now to figure out how much carbon GrowSpace Vertical Farms emits per head of lettuce in our current system. In the hot summer months, we pay around $1,900 per month in electricity. It sounds high, but for what we're doing, it really isn't. Then, during the winter months, we have slightly less energy usage at around $1,200 per month. Over the course of the year, that works to around 140,000 kilowatt hours of energy per year. So each kilowatt hour produces around half a kilogram of CO2. Multiply that out, and just our electricity usage here at the farm equates to 75 tons of CO2 emissions per year. The second big emitter is we actually pump CO2 in here. Like, talk about CO2 emissions, we're literally just pumping it into here. The reason why we do this is because we get much higher yields at higher CO2 amounts inside of the farm. A lot of greenhouses have to do this as well, where they have to add in CO2 just because of how much CO2 the plants are eating up. So we end up boosting the air inside of our farm to around 1,300 parts per million of CO2. So in doing this, we end up adding about 2 to 3 tons of CO2 per year. Not a huge number compared to the electricity, but it does add up.
All told, when you combine those two sources, it's about 78 tons of CO2 emitted per year.
I've tried my best to approach this as non-biased as possible. All of our sources are linked in the Google Doc in the description down below if you want to check any of our sources or read up more on yourself. Feel free to look through that doc if you want to check any of my sources, or if you just want to learn more about where these statistics come from and the actual impact of agriculture.
So we produce around 15,600 heads of lettuce per year. And dividing it out, we get to, 5 kilograms of CO2 per head of lettuce produced. That is worse than everything. That is on the upper end of vertical farms. That's just an ugly number. Now, there are some smaller factors that we aren't accounting for here. For example, when we deliver produce, we deliver in our electric car. But when we added it in, it was a very small amount. That combined with other small sources of emissions, stuff like we do also have a small amount of nitrous oxide that we release. But all of that accounted for, we really didn't see a pretty significant uptick in the amount of emissions, less than a ton per year from all of that. So everything else is less than 1% of total emissions. Pretty much all of our emissions come from the electricity we use. So when I was looking to find solutions for this, I ran into all the sorts of things that you normally would run into, solar panels, etc. But I ran into something called the We Energies Energy for Tomorrow program.
All right, so I'm just gonna kind of tilt the camera. So we are a vertical farm located here in southern Wisconsin. So what I've recently been doing is I've been looking into like our actual climate impact, because we like claim that we're better for the environment. A lot of studies have suggested that, but we can really take it to the next step if the grid that our energy is coming from is nice and clean as well. So while kind of researching this, I stumbled upon the We Energies program. I was pretty impressed by it, because really it's like, and when it's that easy to make a change for your business or for your house to just be in that next step for the environment.
So Energy for Tomorrow is a really popular program we've had for a few decades here. When we're constantly working with our customers and, talking to them about, okay, what sort of things do you want and need, outside of just reliable energy, but some, programs. And so really it sprang from that, the customer request. And so it allows customers, so business or residential, to offset a portion or all of their energy usage with renewable energy. So a typical residential customer uses in Wisconsin about 660 kilowatt hours a month. And that's just, from running a refrigerator and a dishwasher, those type of things. So if you're at the 50% Energy for Tomorrow program, we would offset purchasing or using renewable energy that we own to offset your energy. So in that case, it would be 330 kilowatt hours. Then you pay a little bit extra because there are some extra costs that go into that. And so, yeah, it doesn't change the electrons that are going into your home, but what it does is it offsets the usage on the back end. Yeah, so for residential usage, because that's kind of the most common thing, if you offset 25% for a typical customer, it's less than $2 a month. And if you do 100%, it's $7 to $10 a month, depending on your usage. So, to each person their own. I don't want to say what's significant or not, but it is not a huge cost of money. Obviously, for business, it's going to be a little bit more. So it's based on your usage. So are you guys, or have you, or will you become Energy for Tomorrow customers from the business side?
Yes, we are. We just now signed up, doing
Okay.
research for this. So yeah,
Cool.
we're looking forward to it. So we've now been subsidizing all of our emissions for the past month, and basically what this allows us to do is drastically reduce the amount of emissions per head of lettuce that we grow. Using these methods, we've been able to drop the emissions from that number around 5 kilograms all the way down to 0.2 kilograms. This is possible because our really only large source of emissions is from our electricity usage.
Yeah, so we've really been focused on this for a number of years to really lower our carbon emissions. So actually, good news is through the end of 2024, we actually lowered our carbon emissions 56%. So, we've done a lot and we'll be doing more in the future, but we're also always balancing that with reliability, right? We want to make sure that in the hottest days, the coldest days, and every day that we keep the lights on. So we're building more renewable energy. We're closing some of our less efficient fossil fuel plants. We plan at this point to be out of coal by the 2032. And so it's all going to balance out. But so as I mentioned earlier, right now we're at about 35% of carbon-free energy, and we plan by 2030, so just in a few years, to be about 55% of carbon-free energy. So we're increasing, and by 2050 we plan to be net zero emissions from our electric generation. So it's all just a path that everyone's going on, and we're getting there, as quickly and as sustainably as we can. So customers could do nothing. They could watch this video and realize, I'm really not interested in adding another program, and they'll know that the energy they'll be using in the future will be getting greener. But if they do want to do something extra, the Energy for Tomorrow is a great program. You can do 25%, 50%, or you can offset 100% of your energy usage each month. And so really we leave it up to our customers to decide how they want to handle it, and then we'll work with them on that.
I want to give another thank you to Brendan for coming on to talk about the We Energies program for tomorrow. At Growspace, we recently signed up for the We Energies program, and I've got to say, I think it's working. Our electricity bill's a little higher. So what is the actual conclusion to take away from this video? What is the actual thing that we've learned about vertical farming and its role in the future? I would say that thing that we learned is pretty clear, and that is that vertical farming has to grow with utilities. Vertical farming by itself doesn't work, and utilities without a significant change will still be a very high source of emissions. As we get our grid cleaner and cleaner and cleaner, so will vertical farming become cleaner and cleaner and cleaner and get us closer and closer to a carbon neutral future. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it. So this channel isn't going to just be about vertical farming, it's also going to be about health, it's going to be about sustainability, and it is going to be about vertical farming. If you're interested in learning about anything more related to health, sustainability, vertical farming, drop us a subscription, like the video. Thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one.